Hey guys, Alex here with Armadillo Armament. Today, we're going to be discussing the T-Rex Arms Orion and why it is my preferred belt setup. Before we jump into that video, normal disclaimers. First of all, I've partnered with Red Pawn Shop. He makes really cool patches and stickers for me. Every single piece in that order you purchase is going to remove a pound of junk from the ocean, as well as plant a tree. You're not only buying a really cool patch, I'll put it on the screen right now, but with the code Armadillo, you will get 5% off your order and you'll help save the planet as well. This is a example of those patches. An armadillo with quad nods and an armadillo with nods and an MCX. Doesn't get cooler than that, right? All right, so the topic of today's video is going to be the venerable belt setup. This right here is a T-Rex Arms Orion. This is clearly a war belt setup. Now, before we discuss why I prefer this type of belt, let's give a quick definition of what a war belt setup is. A war belt setup is something that is going to go over your clothes rather than a two-piece belt setup, and there's a little bit of nuance to the definitions, I guess. Everyone's going to have it a little bit different, but regardless, a war belt setup is going to go over your clothes and isn't going to have a inner belt that you weave through your pants, and a two-belt setup or a speed belt setup or a competition belt setup. There's a lot of different names. Is a little bit different. Like I said, it's going to weave through your pants like a normal belt. I'll put a picture on the screen right now. And then you are going to have a Velcro outer piece that's then going to strap around your waist. Today, we are discussing a war belt. As you can see, this is a very wide belt. That is a defining characteristic of war belts, I'd say, is just because you are suspending a lot of weight, you need the belt to be very wide. So once again, war belt setup. It's a very big difference between those two, and your situation is going to dictate which one you want to use, and just how you enjoy wearing a belt, or whichever your preference is going to dictate which one you're going to use. So, suffice to say though, the T-Rex Arms Orion right here is my favorite setup. I'm going to put this on right now so we can go around the belt and I can talk about what I have enjoyed about the setup over the past, give or take, 20,000 rounds and at least a year of full-time use. So, all right. So, kind of a weird camera angle, right? But I want to show you guys how we put this thing on. So, first of all, we have a Cobra buckle in the front. My buckle is backwards. It actually doesn't matter at all. I've seen people correct me online. Doesn't fucking matter, guys. So, war belt setup. You undo the Cobra buckle, goes around the back, you catch it, and now you want these tabs, these very fat tabs, to be as close. You want it to be symmetrical on both sides, but you want it to be as close to the middle, I guess, as possible. That being said, I'm a little bit bigger than when I originally purchased this belt, so maybe I should have gone a size up. Doesn't quite matter. The strap is extremely adjustable, and I'm able to, depending on my clothing, I am able to loosen this if needed or tighten it if I'm not really wearing that much, like basketball shorts as an example. Now, that's the first thing that I want to highlight about this war belt setup, is just the fact that I can wear it without having to go through the extra work of weaving a normal belt. Now, a two-piece belt setup is going to be more rigid, generally speaking, because it is going to be woven directly into your pants, and then you're going to have that extra belt after that then goes over the inner belt. People find it to be a lot more stable of a platform. It actually kind of stemmed from competition shooting. Competitors in IDPA, USPSA, they actually move a lot of tactical kind of thought over the years. I'd say a lot of like deficiencies were found from tactical or from competition shooters, which is very advantageous to us. Competition shooters essentially really gravitated towards this two-piece belt setup because of its rigidity, but when you do move to such a setup, you are sacrificing some things. And that is why I've ultimately landed on the Orion. So, we're just going to go around the belt and talk about some of the significant features I found over time that I greatly enjoy. First of all, that Cobra buckle is phenomenal. The adjustment on this is very smooth. I'm able to adjust as needed, like I said, depending on the clothing very quickly. And now we're going to go to the right side because this is probably a lot more important. First of all, this was purchased from T-Rex Arms. Now, T-Rex Arms, I'm sure we're all aware what that company is their motto of just arming everyone. And I'd say one of the greatest attributes of T-Rex arms is just that they're kind of like a one-stop shop for 99% of things. We're talking body armor, plate carriers, belts. I guess the only thing they don't have is like ammo and guns at this point, which I'd love to see. But one really great point of buying the Orion is, first of all, they used to have a fully kitted setup, which came with basically everything on this belt. I basically emulated that. And that's going to come with a holster. That's going to come with mag holders, and that's also going to come with medical, dump pouch, all the nylon you would possibly need. That's a great advantage for some of us that are newer to tactical gear or just looking to not, go between 15 different shops. It's a one-stop shop, and it's a lot easier than going around and doing all the research. You know that you can get everything from T-Rex arms. So that's a big advantage in my eyes. Now, continuing to go to the right, first of all, the holster. The holster is a Glock 34 holster. Glock 34 holsters actually fit Roland Specials very well. Borderline designed for it because technically Glock 34 is about the length of a Roland. Now, this is their Ragnarok, and their Ragnarok is phenomenal. This one's in multi-cam. I should probably show you this with the thigh strap, but I really recommend you purchase the T-Rex Arms thigh strap right here. What you're going to do is you're going to loop that around your leg, come above, clip that in, and now I have a extremely stable holster. So if I'm drawing, I don't need to kind of cant my holster in and make sure that I have a perfect draw, because otherwise the holster will kind of come up with you, which is a huge problem. What that thigh strap's going to do is it's going to tighten it to your leg. So now I'll just show you guys as least force as I possibly can, I can pull this handgun out, right? It's very advantageous. Once again, I think that's something that competition shooters learned about and has transitioned into the tactical realm. We do have clips right here. I end up holding either tape or gloves, and I have a set of kind of like winter gloves here just because it is pretty cold around me. It's getting pretty warm. And another thing of note is just the fact that T-Rex Arms utilizes the QLS system. So I have a UBL, I think it's their mid-ride to be specific, right here. And what that allows me to do is I can swap out holsters incredibly easy. I don't have another holster to give you guys an example right now, but for my 2011, I will be purchasing another holster. And instead of having to have a completely new belt setup, I'm instead able to utilize this QLS fork, which just slides in to this UBL system. And bam, I have a new holster set up, and that's not going anywhere. You have to press down on these little tongs right here. So I really like the T-Rex arms and UBL system and the QLS system, and I really recommend it moving forward. Now, keep on going to the right. I have the T-Rex arms medical pouch. All right, so the T-Rex Arms Med 1. First of all, like I said, T-Rex Arms is a one-stop shop, which is a huge point. So you are able to get a really nice medical pouch, which is very simplistic, but it's still very quality, which is a recurring theme here. The medical pouch is just one zipper, actually two zippers, one on each end if you want it to meet in the middle. And I have their designated T-Rex Arms medical in here. I carry a ton of medical in my plate carrier, as well as like in my pack. But this is their like pre-built system, which is really cool for people that don't know what they're doing, guys. Remember that their whole motto is being accessible, so they're being very accessible. And I keep some shears in here. But this T-Rex Arms medical pouch is extremely convenient. It's extremely easy to use, and the zippers are high quality, right? I've opened this a million times. Nothing bad's ever happened. It also holds a tourniquet on the bottom. The tourniquet isn't staged properly. I'll fix that. And it has some Velcro up at the front that I put a bunch of kind of cringe patches. I'll let you guys look at them. But then again, night vision rifle and a naked woman, you can't be too upset about that. Oh, and an A10 Warthog, because A10s are badass. But yeah, the medical pouch, guys, I'm not going to pretend it's the best thing since sliced bread. It's nothing special, like a Blue Force Gear 1 will do just as fine, but it's cheap, and it works, and it's all in one place. Now, moving on to the right of that, we have a dump pouch. Dumping your gear on the ground We all, when we're doing like fast mag transitions under a shot timer, we like to just drop our mags on the ground, right? Even I do it all the time. Retaining mags is really important. I recommend your belt setup or your plate carrier or something on you is able to retain those mags. So the T-Rex Arms dump pouch, it folds up extremely easily. It has a little bit of loop field right there. And I don't know what else to say about it, guys. It's a pouch. It's the equivalent of like a Walmart blue plastic bag. If you attach one of those to your kit, it'll do the same exact thing. But regardless, it's high quality. There's actually some mesh at the bottom so liquid can get through. I just noticed that now, because who cares, guys? It's a dump pouch. What's a little bit more interesting to talk about is going to be these mag pouches on the left side. Obviously, these are Kiwis. Kiwis are the gold standard. And once again, T-Rex Arms sells all of these on their website. It's repetitive, but it's a one-stop shop, right? So you add these to your cart, and these will hold either M4 mags. They have them for different sizes. Go look at the Kiwi website if you want a little bit more fringe stuff. But regardless, Kiwis are phenomenal. I'm not huge on being able to put my mags back in my play carrier or my belt setup. To be completely honest with you, I don't really care. I've never been in combat, but I've done a lot of training, and I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I needed to speed reload. I've never been in a situation where I needed to like re-index a used mag back in. And I know a lot of military dudes that can speak to the fact that they've never had to do a quick reload in their entire 20-year military existence. So how necessary is it? I don't know. Probably not very necessary, but they feel really good and they're not too expensive. For example, indexing this M4 mag, super easy. I can do it without looking. Pistol mags are even better. They're extremely solid. They retain very well. Obviously, sorry, RNVGs. Obviously, they're not going to fall out when they're upside down. And another thing that's important is even though this is fitted for a Glock mag, here's a 2011 magazine for my new Alchemy that I received. That is, whew, I'll get you guys a review of that soon. It fits 2011 mags, right? Without falling or anything. And because this is metal, they actually are even slicker. And the magazines come out a lot easier, but not in a bad way, in a good way. But this is mostly my Glock setup. Now, the last thing I really need to talk about on this belt, because this is going to be a short video, is just the benefits of the Orion over the two-piece belt setup. We've talked about it a million times, but the fact that this belt is so wide is probably its greatest trait. For those of you that were in the GWAT, you know that having they're kind of archaic now, but those massive like suspender systems and jungle rigs, people kind of meme on them now as being like, I guess like space inefficient or very old tech. But you know what? They knew what they were doing because overseas and just if you're in the military, you know that you need to carry 30, 40, 50 pounds of gear sometimes. And having that weight dispersed over your entire hip is incredibly beneficial. Uh, the last point I want to make is I am pushing 250 pounds, 6'1", 6'2". I am a pretty big dude. And if you're a big dude, you know that two-piece belt setups can be a little bit rough because I'm going to hurt some feelings here, but we got that little muffin top, right? If you are not a really skinny dude like Lucas or your Granthams, whatever have you, you can find that it can kind of like dig into your stomach and kind of dig into that little bit of pudge. So a thicker belt setup is significantly more comfortable for me as a bigger dude. Work on your physical fitness and get smaller, but hey, if you want to disperse that weight over a greater area, and you want to be a little bit more comfortable, especially if you're a big dude, and that can be muscle too, not just fat, especially if you're a big dude, I really recommend this setup. The last main talking point in terms of pros is, once again, what I said earlier. I love the fact that I can throw this over basketball shorts and I can deploy this really quickly. We all talk about a home intruder coming in the middle of the night, and in our perfect world, I'd have my nods on in my plate carrier. But that's not a world I exist in. Just because you need to be ready for that threat immediately, and you don't want to have time setting up all that shit, right? Now, I want to reassess the question of, oh, you're never going to put your gear on, because I am able to put my MEP seat, and my belt setup on so quickly with a war belt setup that honestly, if the situation permits and I know that I have 30 seconds, uh, I could probably throw this on in under 5 seconds. And I think that's a great benefit. I'm not saying someone breaks into your house, you should have a war belt set up so you can protect yourself better, because the chances of that happening is incredibly low. But if being able to put your kid on really quickly is an advantage to you, then this is definitely the setup for you. And honestly, it's something I really enjoy about this belt setup. I'm able to go to the range, throw this on in a minute. If I get too hot, or I just don't want to put it on, or I don't want to wear that belt setup, I can unbuckle that Cobra buckle, throw it to the ground without thinking twice. That's a big benefit. So, what are some downsides of the war belt setup? First of all, the T-Rex Arms Orion and its ecosystem is definitely a pretty penny. You're looking at multiple hundreds of dollars to set up a belt setup similar to this, which I 100% think is worth the money, but I would much rather a civilian move purchase a plate carrier setup or even a helmet. I'm going to have a separate video at a later time talking about my opinions on plate carriers and belt setups, but in my personal opinion, I think a helmet and a plate carrier like this MEP-C is significantly more important than a belt setup. A belt setup, I primarily think of that as a way to support like a pistol, even though I carry an M4 mag in medical. It really is just basic holding requirements. I'm only holding pistol mags, medical, one M4 mag, and a pistol. Whereas a plate carrier setup, I'm not only plugging holes, I'm making holes and I'm stopping holes, right? So because I have the armor element as well. And I don't think there are any armored belt setups out there. And even then, just armoring your crotch, actually, that's pretty funny. That should exist. I should do that as a business idea. But regardless, it's just that belt setups are expensive, guys, and that's going to be for everything. Cry is super expensive. T-Rex is a little expensive. Even defense mechanisms, they have their own line of stuff, and it's pretty expensive. So that's a big downside of the Orion, is just the fact that it is pretty cost prohibitive. Now, the last part I want to say about the Orion is just the fact that the initial setup for it absolutely kind of sucks, to be completely honest with you. Essentially, you're going to be weaving these pouches through this laser cut material, and I recommend you just watch the T-Rex arms video, but it is incredibly difficult. It took me many many fingernails and scratches like all over my fingers, just bleeding everywhere. It was a horror story. That being said, it's completely worth it, and I think the reason that they did go with this laser cut MOLLE system that required you to weave through is just because it is so solid, and I don't want to knock it. But once again, I will say that it is incredibly difficult to really work with. That is in contrast to something like this Defense Mechanisms MEP-C. This MEP-C, even though this is a similar type system to setting up that Orion, I found that setting this up was actually kind of a breeze with the exception of those side pouches. Laser cut MOLLE is just really freaking hard to work with. And if you use like an SPC or a laser cut MOLLE system in the past, you know what I'm talking about. It just like it digs into your fingers and you will be bleeding by the end of it. So blood sacrifice may be necessary to utilize the T-Rex Arms Orion. But that's all I have to say on the Orion. I'm keeping this video pretty short because I will be having reviews on the future of every single one of these individual components, very likely, that being the holster, talking about the UBL a little bit more, maybe this medical pouch, etc., etc. But if you are looking to get into belt setups without having too much experience on them, honestly, the T-Rex Arms Orion may be your ticket. It's really easy to set up outside of the installation process. It's very easy to buy everything in one store. And once again, it is, in my opinion, the most comfortable belt setup I've used. And I've used a lot of them out there, guys. Some of the most popular ones I've used, and I always come back to the Orion just because of how wide it is, how comfortable it is, and just how high quality it is. So, like this video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below if you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.